Her roots, though, go back to graduating from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, so she knows Wisconsin well. But she's had a lot of experience in Washington as a Deputy Assistant Attorney General, as a Chief Counsel for the Nominations Committee for the Senate Judiciary Committee, and she now is working in this area of media, Center for Media and Democracy, and we all know how critical that area is. It's a great pleasure to introduce Lisa Graves.
Well, I want to thank Nate and Rick for putting this together and holding firm on having this go forward. Even though we've all been down at the protest, I'm sure all of us are pretty tired from a pretty long week at the beginning of this battle. But I really want to take a moment to thank them both, and also to thank Mike and Dave and Ed Garvey, real leaders in this state and really in this country on these issues. So I actually am not sure that I could ask for a better introduction than what Mike said, to what the Center for Media and Democracy does and why Nate asked me to talk today, which is I actually wouldn't encourage you to go to Google. I'd encourage you to go to our website, sourcewatch.org. You might have heard of it. It actually tracks the bad guys. So while Google bleaches out the truth, talks about how great these guys are, what these CEOs are doing, what their pedigree is, their academic pedigree is, SourceWatch actually tells the real story on these organizations. And so we actually have a bunch of materials for you. We're here to arm you. Our mission is to make sure that you have the facts and information you need to fight these battles, that we need to fight these battles. So, at SourceWatch, we've been following the Koch brothers for, 10 years at least. We've got books like Banana Republicans, How the Right Wing is Turning America into a One-Party State. These document what the Koch brothers have been doing. They document what the other folks have been doing. We've got a new website. That website is called banksterusa.org. Because bankers plus gangsters equals banksters. So banksterusa.org is led by my colleague Mary Vitari, and we've been highlighting who the bad guys are. We give them a Golden Throne Award to the big banksters, the heads of Goldman Sachs and the heads of JP Morgan, so that we can get their names out there so that people will know who those people are, who the enemy is in essence, who the people are who are underwriting the destruction of our economy. And then we have a site called PR Watch. One of our logos is, you want a real democracy? Fight corporate spin, right? That's what we've got to do. So we have a resource that we're going right now. The rest of my team is in Madison at the protests, covering a live blog, helping to track what the unions are putting up on the sites, trying to make sure people know where to go, get information on what's happening, document the pictures from the protests, send information about who these people are. And last night, I was down at the Capitol until 3 o'clock in the morning working on a report on the Koch brothers, how the Koch brothers are fueling Scott Walker's attack against us. Now, I've gotten some criticism this morning already about the article because the Koch brothers only gave $43,000 directly to Scott Walker. Well, that's a lot of money, actually. It's one of his more major donations, as Mike has documented on his website. It's one of the more major donations from a group not called the Republican Party. It's a pretty significant amount. $43,000 is a lot of money to me. If someone gave me $43,000, I don't know, would it influence me? I'd like to tell you it wouldn't. I'm not sure I would be telling you the truth. But actually, a $43,000 donation is in some ways meant to just distract you. Because the fact is that the Koch brothers, in June of last year, they gave $1 million, David Koch, one of the Koch brothers, let me just back up a second, because the Koch brothers are the sons of one of the founders of the John Birch Society. And you know the John Birch Society. So as Mike said, this third wave of ownership, which I think his remarks were just so clear, this third wave of ownership, part of the reaction to the growth in civil rights, the growth in labor rights, the growth in people being real participants in this democracy is the John Birch Society, which actually wants to repeal civil rights laws. Because they really, want to go back to the days when money really called the shots. So their dad was one of the founders of the John Birch Society, and so I kind of call them Bircher babies, right? So the Bircher babies, have used the money that they've inherited from their oil and gas fortune to fuel a whole bunch of groups that you hear about in the news, a bunch of groups that are influential in Washington, including Americans for Prosperity, which we've been documenting on our SourceWatch site, which has been in turn funding the Tea Party. So, $1 million donation last June to the Republican Governors Association by David Koch, $1 million. Then they threw another 50,000 here or there, so it added up to like $1,150,450. $1 million, and then Rupert Murdoch, you've heard of him, right? Fox News guy, News Corp. He matched that donation. He gave the Republican Governors Association another $1 million. A couple other people threw in $1 million here or there. Eventually, Republican Governors Association had like 50, 60, 70, 80 million dollars. So I suppose you could say that the Koch brothers' $1 million was just one part of the millions of dollars that the RGA spent in this election, but it was $1 million. And then RGA turned around and spent $5 million. $5 million in Wisconsin in the election last year. But you might not have really seen it because, of course, it didn't say this ad sponsored by David Koch or funded in some way by David Koch. It didn't say this ad is brought to you by the Bircher babies. It wouldn't say that. I know. It basically just said Tom Barrett's a really bad guy. They ran $5 million worth of ads talking about how much Tom Barrett would ruin this country. So, ruin the nation, ruin the state. So that Scott Walker didn't have to spend his money doing that, mudslinging. That was taken care of by the RGA. So this morning someone said to me, well, David Koch isn't really fueling Scott Walker's campaign. I said, that depends on how you define fueling, right? He didn't give $1 million to Scott Walker. He gave $1 million to the Republican Governors Association, which spent $5 million in Wisconsin. It's kind of like a shell game. I'm willing to call it what it is. They're fueling Scott Walker. Did 200,000 of their million fuel Scott Walker? I don't know. Did their millions help get Scott Walker in office? Of course. And the Republican Governors Association put a nice congratulatory banner on their website, which we've documented,